A very warm welcome to Not Why But How, a policy podcast where big ideas meet real action. Presented to you by NALSAR Public Policy Group. At Not Why But How, we believe that good ideas are just the beginning. What truly matters is making them work. No ivory towers, no endless debates, just sharp, practical conversations about turning policy into action. My name is Devika Veerkar, and we are delighted to host for this episode of Not Why But How, Professor Yugank. Sir is an Associate Professor of Public Policy at Flame University. He is the Founder-Director of the Center for Knowledge Alternatives at Flame. He is also a TEDx speaker and has been featured in various renowned podcasts such as Seen and Unseen. Sir worked at the O.P. Jindal Global University as one of its founding faculty members, especially helping in establish the university's law school. Prior to that, he has worked at a major private bank where he consulted for rural infrastructure projects in eastern India. Professor Yugank also engages with the government on public policy issues regularly. He is a member of the National Education Policy Steering Committee for the Government of Maharashtra, the Regional Advisory Council member for the Indian Council of Cultural Relations, Government of India, and has been on the academic board of the Indian School of Public Policy. Recently, he has also co-founded a philanthropic crowd-funded school in rural western UP. Sir, we are delighted to host you and thank you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you, Devika. Thank you so much.
So one of the first things that sparks my curiosity about your work is around the higher education institutions, specifically the entrance exams that lead us to these institutions. And seeing as we're in NALSAR right now, which also is a result of a highly competitive exam called CLAT, and your analyses have led you to the conclusions that it has high social and psychological costs on the students that end up taking these examinations. Do you think that the problem in competitive exams is more so related to this like parallel industry of coaching centers, which fuels the problem and makes these universities inaccessible, or is the problem fundamentally found in the way that these exams are undertaken? And so corollary to that question also is, where do you think the policy efforts should be focused, in regulating coaching centers or in or standardizing the tests and making them sort of more equitable, less arbitrary, leading to better, more quote-unquote meritocratic results?
So, Devika, I mean, this is a great question, and of course, with some of your own friends in NALSAR, we wrote a piece in EPW where we, interviewed a range of students, etc. And so this is very clear, and I think I don't have to talk about it. The huge amount of psychological, emotional stress and the trauma that many students go through, and so I think in some ways that is. The jury is out. We don't have to discuss. I mean, I don't think there is any disagreement. But your question is more interesting, which is, what do you do about it, right? And so I think any society where you have higher demand than supply will create some mechanism to ration. Right? So if there is more people and less trains, you will ration it based on prices. So the more people can pay, they will be allowed to enter. But then there are fairness considerations. What kind of rationing can you do? In university spaces, they didn't decide it on the basis of money, that you can get any position or a place in a top university if you have money, but they decided on the basis of merit. This to us became a gospel truth. Of course, university systems are there to attract the most meritorious, and only they deserve to get into good universities. And so we stopped asking the first principle question. So imagine if we were to say that one way to reduce crowding or overcrowding is to simply tell people whoever pays most will get the seat in the train, or do we think people who pay first should therefore get a seat in the train? So these are questions of demand-supply gaps, basically. So one can say that the big problem is that we have very few good universities or good colleges. So if there are hundreds of NALSARs, then probably this problem will not be that big, right? So that, of course, is the mother problem of all. Like if you fix that, then all these problems are resolved. Let's say you can't fix it because of all kinds of capacity issues. Then how do you ration it? How do you decide who to get this seat? And then we think merit is the best way. But ask yourself, what is the purpose of university? Is the purpose of university to select and train smartest, or select and train anybody who wants to study, or select and train I don't know, anybody who's suitable to study, or select and train probably the most people who are least suitable to study, or probably who have been really very very mediocre in their studies. Who should university pick? And turns out that if university is selecting somebody at 90 and making this guy into 95, as opposed to picking up somebody at 40 and making this guy into 60, maybe the second group of people are far more in need of university space seats. But what merit does is it just attracts only the bright ones. So in some ways, first of all, so we have absorbed this as a truth that yes, of course, the brightest have to go. I think there is a problem with that. But then the other option is, how do you select them? And for that we need to get more universities. We don't have more universities which are of good quality, so therefore this problem will remain. So here's my answer to the whole problem. If you don't have anything for somebody who is securing 80, 85, 90, and if only those who secure more than 90 or 95 can look at their career with promise, then there is something remarkably horrible with the society. So I mean, back in the days, if you get 80% marks, parents will be just generally happy. But now it's like, somebody who's got 85 is looking into the future with hopelessness, and the creation of that. And so what this leads to is Darwinian struggle. In this Darwinian struggle, you have these coaching institutions that take over, because really the success metric is to get into a college, not the college itself. Whether these coaching institutions are able to make the students smarter or not, I don't know. So imagine a world where coachings are banned and people are just going and giving exam based on their own self-study. You will still select the best people.
Correct.
IITs, IIMs or NALSARs of India will still select the best people. So is it really the metric? But you can't really make it very liberal, very sort of easy, easy exam because these are relatively graded. So you can't say that the exams are tough and therefore this is a problem. So let's say tomorrow you say, well, we'll select students to study law based on how well they dance. There will be coaching institutions on dance then. So whatever method you pick up, you will have these coaching institutions cropping up. My problem with them is therefore twofold. One, if 5% people get selected, what do you do with the rest 95%? Or maybe the next group of 20% students who are just the next in line but don't have anywhere to go. The second problem is the amount of time you spend in coaching institutions. You are also taking the time away from, painting something, playing, building yourself in different ways, and so you have this kind of mono intellectual cultures that get developed through this coaching, which is hugely costly to society. At the end of the day, after NALSAR, you will have to become part of society, and I don't know, maybe it would have been helpful if you had done other things and not just study whatever is asked in the entrance exam. So personally, I think it's a huge deadweight loss in the society.
That's the fundamental sort of question there. So one of the solutions proposed is to regulate this industry. The fact that it's so heavily motivated by money, the fact that it's so heavily motivated by, the narrative is that bacha paida hua, you have to start studying for IIT at that point, and so that's the only way to be able to crack an exam like that. So this foundation culture and this like you pointed out, all of these issues that exist just because coaching centers are going to exist regardless of what the sort of competitive exam situation is going to be. Wouldn't the obvious sort of solution be regulation? Would you think that regulation would help? Or
so regulation of coaching institutions.
Of just, yes.
Yeah,
just a policy level.
For sure, we need regulations. If not for anything else, but at least for ensuring that there are no suicides taking place among students. Right? So regulations is never the answer, and I think most people, particularly lawyers, always look at regulations as some sort of panacea. We create a regulation and answers will come. There's like this magic wand. Tell me one case where regulation has really helped, or at least achieved the expected success. And part of the reason why regulation doesn't help is because the regulatory capture is so high in developing societies, is that whoever the inspector is, who is going to go and ensure that the coaching institution has all the fire norms, will simply be bribed, or basically these interest groups are extremely powerful and strong. But that doesn't mean that there should not be any regulation. I think there is a need for basic regulatory frameworks to be set, because right now these coaching institutions are looked at as if just like a barber shop is looked at, right? You just have to apply for a license and set your shop, and the reason why this regulation is required is because of huge amount of social loss that happens when these organizations cheat the students simply by there could be so many fly-by-night operators, etc. It's so funny that the type of strangling regulations and requirements needed for universities and schools stands in stark contrast with absolutely no regulation for a place which, by the way, has more students than those who go to these good colleges, because obviously most of them are not going to be getting selected. That said, I don't think that will be a solution. You need some of it, but we should keep our hopes low, and I'm sorry to hurt lawyers' feelings in that. I don't think regulations will be enough for it, or for anything for that matter. You really require a significant amount of policy change at the level of how do you recruit students.
Correct.
Can we recruit students by different kinds of measures for which coaching alone is not going to suffice?
Precisely was going to be my next question. You're seeing that NEET questions are there's a whole controversy as soon as NEET happens. There's a whole controversy as soon as JEE happens. There's the competitive exams and the bodies that conduct them themselves are under so much fire. So there's regulation of coaching centers that lead you to these exams, but there's also these exams and these bodies that conduct these exams. The CLAT consortium, for example, there is a student-led movement that NALSAR is very much involved in, which is all of the NLUs coming together to tell the consortium that 4,000 rupees to pay for attempting an entrance exam is way too much and prices a lot of people out of it. And that's something that we're trying to push on a policy level with the consortium. And different movements of these capacities exist for all of these entrance exams. But would you say that, one of the proposed solutions is standardize all entrance exams, bring them under one body, and seeing as you're on multiple councils that deal with education, would you say that that's something, would the same pitfalls that exist for regulating coaching centers, would they exist for a body
Absolutely.
of that?
I think, okay, here's my provocative answer. I don't think any of these solutions will work, because whatever standardized exam you will keep, there will be coaching institutions that will spring for that. You tell them, we will look at your class 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th mark sheet also, there will be coaching institution for that. Like I said, you say that we'll only select you on the way you dance, then there will be coaching for dance. So here's after a lot of thinking and indeed some research, I have come to a conclusion. Is that seats of good colleges, the only way to address this malaise is to distribute the seats randomly, draw of lots.
Wow.
I think this is going to surprise many people, but let me engage in a conversation with you and tell me, let me try to convince you. In NALSAR or in any other place which you think is highly competitive, do you see good and bad apples among students?
Absolutely.
Okay, so can we say that the promise of the entrance exam is not necessarily fulfilled? Can we say this with reasonable accuracy for all kinds of IITs, IIMs, NLSs, NALSARs and all of them?
Broadly, yes, but the issue I have...
Let me complete this. If broadly, the answer is broadly yes. Then what we do is, we take everyone who is an above average student. We can measure it by, if you secure more than 75%, 85%, whatever, we can measure that. Then you are an above average student. To secure that, so that threshold should be such that it is not extremely difficult to achieve it. Above average students can achieve it without going to coaching, right? So let's say 80% marks. We think if you are above 80, you are reasonably well qualified to study law. Then we select people randomly. Because we are selecting students randomly, the cluster of people who we will get will have both good and bad. The universities will have to invest a lot more resources to make sure that the education levels are of such nature that even those who are just at 81 or 82 are able to compete with those at 95 or 96, which is actually a good thing for a society if university is making that effort. In fact, when universities know that they're going to get toppers, they don't have to make any efforts. Delhi University, the selection criteria in, top Delhi SRCC, St. Stephen's or whatever, 97%, some 98%, I don't know. You've got 95%. Do I need to teach you to get you a job? Do you need to be taught in NALSAR for you to get a job? Because most of you are already smart. In fact, the purpose of university is to teach well. Now, the other thing is, if, however, you think that, some really, really bad apples will come, then tell me, do you think somebody who secures 82% in class 12th is dramatically far away from somebody who secures 95%? Or can you engage with this person on legal thinking?
I'm fairly sure. I could probably.
So all I'm saying is, get above average people, give them, then do a draw of lots very transparently, get them seats, the coaching institution will vanish from thin air. And imagine the amount of benefits you make. All these students are no longer going to coaching institute. They're sitting in the English classes. They're also playing sports. Maybe some of them are playing pianos and still trying to figure out that they get more than 80%. And after that, it's after all luck. And if you tell me that luck doesn't matter and should not matter, well, then we are living in a different universe.
Absolutely.
You tell me, how is this? So, I mean, honestly, forget about this. This is a podcast. Try challenging the argument that draw of lots will give you by and large similar quality of law graduates at the end of 5 years, or IT graduates in the 4 years or whatever, than the coaching institution, the entrance exam will get you.
There's just one issue I have with this, that fundamentally all of the analyses tell you that alright, the coaching institutions are draining the 2 very crucial years of your lives, more than 2 for some streams. But the benefit that I saw, that I entered NALSAR with the students that had already prepared for a competitive exam that I prepared for, all of us got into a way of thinking that helped us in law school.
But don't you need more diversity in this way of thinking? Look at what's happening.
Yeah.
Look at the type of judgments that are coming.
Correct.
They all look copy-paste from each other, quite literally, frankly. I'm not even saying figuratively.
Yeah, no.
So you are creating a mass of lawyers who are only looking at law in one way. Delhi High Court, Supreme Court gave 2 days ago a judgment that all 3 lakh dogs of the city have to be taken into shelters in 8 weeks.
Okay.
I mean,
That's not sure.
3 lakhs. That means 5,000 dogs per day, and then you have to do all kinds of things. It's not just catching them and putting them somewhere. You have to create shelters. Do they have any idea what it takes administratively? Why don't they have an idea? Well, I don't know. In law school, is there a diversity of thinking when you can bring the problem of implementation directly into the classroom other than just drafting? So in my view, actually, Devika, it's a good point that there is a certain tuning that you've made, in terms of approach of thinking. But I would say that if somebody who does not have that thinking will probably enrich your class actually a little bit more, because this is law. This is not, I don't know, theology.
Yeah.
This is law. You need that diversity. And second, these students are supposed to learn law in the college, not before that. So if you are making them, you need to be legal or legal-like, then what is the college doing?
Correct.
And the same thing goes for engineering or medicine or any of this. Medicine, like doctors, I don't know how many doctors are ever taught how to engage with the relatives of the patient in India.
Correct.
Are they ever taught sociology? Or are they ever taught, I mean, when hospitals are designed, tell me how many hospitals give weightage or emphasis to waiting areas. And all hospitals in India have more waiting area people than the patients.
Correct.
Because architects are not taught about it, for instance. And I'm saying this with a full sense of responsibility. So I think when we say there is merit in interdisciplinarity, then draw of lots is actually adding value to bringing these, tunnel vision, folks into a classroom like law. Law of all, disciplines, I think, must have students who don't think alike. I mean, I see law firms, students who join law firms. I see their partners. I see all of these people. They all look copy-paste of each other. They talk similarly, they think similarly, they marry into each other, of course, and then they have, and the same type of environment gets, over a period of, some of them are happy, but most of them become this cutthroat competitors of their own friends. I mean, they're all, we like diversity, is this homogeneity is so boring.
That absolutely makes sense.
So tell me, why should we not select students on a draw of lots? And I'm not just talking law, anyone. You can, of course, we can discuss on law specifically.
No, there's no. But
make it 90 if you're not happy with 80. But then after that, just select it on the basis of,
it's just everybody else is just.
You can separate. So many males we want, so many females, and that's it. You can actually create more and more affirmative action. Okay, 20% should be from small towns. So draw lots of small towns. We don't want Delhi, Bombay people to crowd out. And look what's happening in law schools. They've all become these English-speaking elite school kids coming to law. What happened to the whole idea of why we want? These are national law schools. These are not. This is not supposed to cater to South Bombay or South Delhi.
Absolutely.
And so by a draw of lot, you may actually end up getting someone who the institution was aspiring to serve. These law schools are created to help Indians. I mean, not Indians, to help people. And they do help, but I don't know. Maybe it just feels bad. How can we select somebody on the basis of lottery?
Correct.
Well, tell me what hasn't happened in our lives on the basis of lottery. Whether it's a family we are born into, or the person we marry, or the type of children we have, or the city we end up living, we think we are in control, we are not in control. Let's just, and imagine the type of issues that will go away from the world if it's all just on the draw of lots. So someday you'll be unlucky, tomorrow maybe on masters you'll be lucky, I don't know.
isn't there weight to be given to inherent? I mean, like you said, obviously merit is a myth for most purposes, but isn't there weight to be given to effort and to like you said, like some people just want it more than others do.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So first of all, I'm not trying to say that merit is useless. Merit has huge value, but do we need to use merit to select students into the class? Should I enroll based on merit?
But somebody who has similar or higher zeal just ends up being worse for wear. Okay, I mean, too bad luck, whatever. And somebody who isn't as motivated to study the same subject. For example, one of the things that I notice also amongst my batchmates is how badly we wanted to do it for us to be able to get to this point. So, not that I'm saying that everybody who didn't want to do it has...
So, Devika, you're absolutely right, but you tell me, do you think people who could not get selected into NALSAR, didn't they have, maybe they had greater zeal, but they were simply not smart enough. And smartness is a function of a lot of things that you don't have control over. The type of family you're born into, type of coaching you go to, the amount of... So ultimately, merit is not... yeah, surely there is this gifted child and, who's so meritorious, but there's like few number. In general, hard work takes you there. You are doing hard work to ensure that you're eligible. I'll make sure I'll get above 85 and then I will be stress free. Let the universe decide what it has for me, and I will keep applying to 20,000 other places because everywhere there is luck. And so in some ways, the type of misery that this draw of lot system imposes on society, in my sort of back on the envelope imagination, is going to be far less than the misery that is percolated through the type of systems that we have created, where smart students are also hopelessly draining away their most productive years and formative stages of the life.
Yes,
into think about your own time.
We're all spending our entire time just slogging away at this sort of one.
So imagine a world where nothing of this sort happens, and somebody comes to you and says, oh, you know what, when your children will grow up, you can have them enjoy until 12, 13, 14. After that, we will take them from schools because the schools are useless. We'll put them into these crammed coaching classes like herds, and there's somebody who's going to get them to mug up millions of things, and they will not go to parties, they'll not go to play football, they will also not sort of even stand outside on the street and have some golgappas, because that's not what they should do. They should do this, and then when they go to the college, so basically 15, 16 to 21, can we have your children be put into a cage where they can do this and not that, so that they can get into think about the absurdity of this idea, which is vis-a-vis, after all of this is done, there'll be a draw of lots, and if your child gets a good college, they'll go to good college. If the child gets a bad college, they'll go to bad college, but then they can make up for it by, let's say, transfer systems that NEP allows. They can make up for it for their master's program. They can make up for it by probably dropping another year, maybe doing something else. Maybe this allows newer and newer colleges to get opened up. Maybe there's some more, evenness across different kinds of institutions, and you're like, this is still okay. As it is for anything that I'm doing, luck is one of the most primary factor.
But as convincing as this might be on okay, fair enough, the problems of the institution are nullified to a certain extent. What's the incentive for either the government or the pressure groups that exist for coaching centers? No, forget coaching centers. Let's say, for example, let's control for them right now. But universities themselves, who would want this?
So I'll tell you why universities will not want this.
Exactly.
IITs and IIMs and even national law schools, they thrive on this misery.
Yes.
Because for them, their brand value comes that we are so choosy, we are so selective. Yes. If that choosy nature or this element of how exclusive we are goes away, then there'll be no fun in them claiming who we are. And so therefore, despite the issues of all this, it will not happen, because it requires a huge amount of public focused imagination at policy level to do this. They will not want to do this because they've reached that stage and they don't suffer. It's the social suffering, but that suffering is so thinly shed across millions of people that there is no lobbying and crazy mass on this. And also, I think our education system makes us grow in a world, makes us believe that if something is coming as a matter of luck, it is undesirable. And I don't know, there's just the most absurd thing in the world, because everything comes, most things, if not everything, your genetics decide half the things that where will you go in life. So I think it will not happen, because I know and I know many of these institutional approaches. In fact, alums will not want this to happen, because they will think, oh, we came through this difficult thing and now you're making it. But the problem is, this is classic, one of those, there is a better optimal situation, but because of games, you know about this game theory matrix. So this is a suboptimal solution, but the society will gravitate towards this, because they want this. Elites don't want to become non-elites. My claim, however, is this doesn't make them non-elite. In fact, they will now not be known by how choosy and selective they are. They'll be known by what kind of education they impart. And students are happy because in the draw lots they get a college and they're like, oh my god, that's great, this is the best college that I got through draw lots, and oh, this is the second best college, and so on and so forth. So in some sense, I don't think there is any
motivators.
So I'd say they will actually now invest on, imagine the amount of investment they have to make for conducting entrance also. And of course that money is at 4,000 rupees, and I don't know how many students sit for CLAT.
75, 70, 80 odd thousand.
So 1 lakh people are paying 4,000 rupees. The amount of money, there is 40 crores or something.
I'm not definitely sure.
Yeah, so this is what's the point?
Yeah.
Drop lots, you can still pay some money, like, I don't know, because you want only serious people to come. And by the way, those who don't want to do law, their parents will not force them then. ये करो, क्योंकि तुम्हें law करना है, entrance करो. ठीक है, drop lots में डाल दूंगा. हो जाएगा तो ठीक है. There is
precisely it. No, so you want some. That was what I was getting at. Is that you want something really badly. For example, I really wanted to get into a law school, but to try my chance, I'd also put my name in like one BA. Like, okay, I'll do journalism. I'll do something else.
So Devika, tell me, if you somehow had gotten this journalism and not NALSAR, would you not be doing? So there will be two options. Either you'll fall in love with journalism. यही करना है. I would do journalism now, or you will hate it. I don't want to do it. So you would have tried for LLB afterwards.
That would, that's again like there's no incentive for me to have to, like, why should I do that?
But then by this logic you are assuming that everybody who goes into IIT does engineering after that.
No, that's true.
So if they're anyway leaving out, so you will always have the people who will join law but then become, I don't know, poets after that. You will have people who will join IITs and will then become IAS officers and things like that. If this will happen anyway, it's all right to attract some people who are not necessarily interested, because either they'll change their mind, or law will enable, empower, enrich their whatever they want to do in a different way, and maybe that will be helpful. Somebody does law and then does medical sciences, I think it's a useful fellow.
Useful person, yeah.